Welcome to The Audaci-Tea, the podcast by women, for women, and of course, anyone brave enough to listen. And we want to kick off our very first video show by saying thank you to all of our amazing listeners for 50,000 downloads. Woo!
That was so exciting to learn. Like, that's so exciting. In
Yeah,
3 months.
Absolutely.
In 3 months.
Yeah.
That
So
is fascinating.
I'm so sorry. I didn't.
Another round of applause, everyone. Yay. No, I love it.
My bad.
And with that being said, please remember that, nothing is being taken away. You can still keep on listening on other platforms. If you're seeing us for the first time today, hi, we're very excited to be here. And we're not changing the podcast at all. The audio is still going to be the same. The process of us recording it is the same. It's just that now y'all can see us too. And hopefully that will be an enjoyable part of the experience for you. And this video version will be available for our TVIP subscribers as well as on YouTube, and that one will be free. So we're excited. We also want to give a huge shout out to our newest TVIP subscriber, Alicia A. Welcome, Alicia.
Welcome, Alicia.
We love our Patreon community, so please make sure that y'all do join. If you haven't joined yet, but you've been listening, please come and join the conversation. We have so many different chats and different topics. We post weekly blogs. Sometimes we post videos, and we post weekly polls as well. So be sure that you check all that out and become part of the community.
It's growing like weeds, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. Yes.
Really fast.
We're very honored, very excited. And today is an extremely exciting show because we get to talk with Savannah, one of the original members of FDS, which stands for Female Dating Strategy. And she's going to be our guest today. And we're going to be discussing, obviously, a number of different topics, but we're hoping to talk to her specifically about dealing with criticism in the feminist community and just as women dealing with criticism from other women.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to dive into that.
Same.
I don't know about y'all.
Me too.
If
Anybody knows controversy, it's definitely Female Dating Strategy. I remember being part of their subreddit when they had that up, and it was just nothing. It was like great for the first few months that it was up, and it was all women in there
Until the men found it.
And then the men found it, and it all kind of fell apart. And then the trolls found it, and that sucked. And Twitter, parts of Twitter were coming after them. And yeah, that was Murder, She Wrote on that. But I'm really excited to have Savannah on. This is going to be great.
It is.
Yes.
Huge fan. Shout out to FDS.
So stay tuned for that. And for now, let's have our tea, ladies. What is everyone thinking about?
So quick question. How do you feel about watching someone die? Like if they were getting electrocuted or not electrocuted. I don't know if anybody does the electrocutions anymore, but lethal injection. Sorry.
Not the electric chair.
You're opening up the show. I love it.
I'm asking that question because over the weekend, I watched the most depressing fucking movie based on a true story. It was called Trial by Fire. And it was the story of, God, I can't think of his name right now, that got wrongfully executed or not executed, got sent to death row because he was accused of burning his house down with his 3 daughters in it. But come to find out, it was not arson. It was a gas explosion or something like that. Something to do with his electric heater or whatever. Wow. And I had never heard of this particular guy. This happened in Texas some years back. But I did know about people, as far as the death penalty, like people were against it because people were getting wrongfully, taken out. So because I wasn't familiar with it, I'm thinking, me and my dude, we're sitting there watching and we're thinking it's going to have this happy ending. Like, that there was this woman, she was from Jurassic Park. I can't think of her name right now, but she got wind of his case and was like fighting for him and finding new evidence and proving that everybody in the town was in on like making sure he went down for it. The mother of the daughters lied. I mean, it was a whole conspiracy, basically, and he still got executed. But the whole time, we're thinking it's going to be like a good ending, and it wasn't. It's on Netflix. It's called Trial by Fire. And it got me to thinking about why people would want to watch someone dying in their last moment. And the reason why it pertains to like child-free women is because it also got me to thinking about when people say, you're going to die alone. You're going to die alone with your cats. And I'm like, I think it's creepy. The thought of somebody watching me die. I don't think I would want people surrounding my bed as I'm dying. Am I the only one that feels that way? Because that's kind of weird. But I wouldn't be afraid to die alone is what I'm saying. Like, I would actually prefer that. Not having like 50 people in my family or 2 people or in one person there like watching me die. But as far as watching people get executed or go through lethal injection, it was the guy was a good actor because it was to the point where I couldn't watch because his body was, and I'm like, who wants to watch that? So in my mind, I'm like, do you have to be kind of like a sociopath or whatever to want to watch someone dying? Does that make sense? And I'm not talking about like being there for your grandmother, or, something like that, or a dying kid that's having cancer or something. But I'm saying like this person is being executed for whatever reason. And you're just in there. There's always people in there in the little box just sitting there like this with their eyes bugged watching you. And it got me thinking. I'm just wondering, like, is that inhumane? Is that something wrong with you if you want to do that, or is that normal? Like, do you get what I'm asking?
Absolutely, yeah, I absolutely get what you're asking, and it is. I don't want to say normal, but it is common, and I think that it is common in way more disgusting and depraved ways than we realize, even because there's so much of that type of material on the internet that people do watch for fun, like snuff films and stuff like that. Also, let's keep in mind during times of slavery, people would send postcards from lynchings to their relatives of the aftermath.
Wow.
And so that's always been present. I mean, there's used to be gladiator matches or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that becomes more popular as people face tougher conditions. So like the common theme with all of those things is that the people watching these things as entertainment were all poor and had nothing else going for them.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you bring that up right now because our current administration just brought back execution by firing squad, which is very, what's the word? It's very like...
That's scary.
It's like the gore of it. It's like very,
That's the point. The cruelty is the point. It's always been the point of
it's salacious.
Most of these decisions.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Me and my dude, when we were watching it, we brought it up. And we both agreed that we would rather die by firing squad than lethal injection. Based on the way that he was just like his whole body. I'm like, was his heart exploding inside? Like, what was happening? I don't know what was happening. But it was very hard to watch and I couldn't turn away. But I'm like, I feel like firing squad would be a quick, painless death. Like, just get it over with in 30 seconds or whatever, instead of minutes of like agony and burning and whatever else. So I don't agree with the death penalty unless someone is a serial killer. If they're not a serial killer, I don't agree with the death penalty. That's the only, for me personally, that would be the only exception. Like, if you don't stop this person, they're going to keep killing people. That's it. When it comes to anything else, I think it's better that people suffer alive and suffer for their crimes than take the easy way out.
Exactly. I was going to say, to me, the death penalty is not really a punishment. It's more of entertainment. Again, it's more of like when you need to make an example out of someone, then you use the death penalty.
Right.
And I'm really concerned that our current administration is taking steps in that direction. Because I think the only reason that you would bring back, execution by firing squad is for those like salacious reasons. Like, people are going to tune in to watch that or gather to watch that.
I really feel like you're demonic if you want to watch someone die in such a horrific way. Like, you are the evil. When we talk about the world is evil, you are why. You are that. You are the reason. And I've had to watch many people die working in healthcare, like hundreds. I don't know, I've lost count. That's not something that you really want to do if you are a caring person. If you're somebody who's evil or who sees this sort of thing as entertainment, then I mean, there's something literally wrong with you. Like, I can't think of, I can't say what I really want to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. That's always been really interesting to me that the pro-life party is so pro-death penalty.
Oh my God.
Especially given how many of these cases are like false positives or,
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, if you really cared about life and like innocent life lost, then you would never support the death penalty. Like,
Absolutely.
prison punishment is enough.
Yeah.
Prison
We would
is
have had something
horrible.
done after the first shooting in Columbine. Like
Well,
something would have been
yeah,
done
besides, yeah,
like
of
that
course.
week or that at
Yeah.
that time, because none of these kids should have suffered like that.
Mhm.
And still, like, we have week after week, it's just one horror story after another about what's happening
Mhm.
in these schools. And I just like, how can you say you're pro-life and yet we have all these policies in place that make it easier, well, allegedly easier to get a gun for if you're a crazy person.
Mhm.
And I know it's one of the reasons why I remain child-free, because I couldn't put myself through that or my family through that if I had a kid,
Absolutely.
and
Oh, yeah.
God forbid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Sovereign. I mean, I do think it's very disturbing how people will view that kind of stuff as entertainment or view it as justice when you can't really guarantee that it really is justice. Because a lot of people up until that execution are going to claim that they were innocent, and we don't know which ones
Right.
it was right for or not. I mean, police departments have been found planting evidence. Police departments have been found,
Exactly.
crossing all sorts of bounds, and we're just loosening a lot of these, they're getting immunity, which
Yeah.
is interesting
Yeah.
too. They're getting immunity, and people like the common folk are getting less protections. Like, you're more likely now to be executed by firing squad than you were a couple months ago, which is fucking crazy.
And that's what they seem to have wanted. That's what they voted for. So,
yeah, speaking of which, there's been a lot going on politically. It's very difficult to pick a subject or something to discuss for tea time, because it's like, what do you pick? Is it the Democrats selling us out and, basically giving conservatives all the reins to perform a hostile government takeover? Like, is it that? Do we talk about the fact that people are being deported and tortured in prisons because they are being suspected of being like gang members with no proof, nothing? They're just getting
No
rounded up
convictions
and
either.
like
Like,
flown
you're supposed
out.
to have a
Yeah.
trial by a jury of your peers, and they don't get that. They're just sent away.
I'm more
Yeah.
concerned about those kids. I can only
I
imagine the
know.
horrors that a lot of them are facing
Gosh.
mentally, emotionally, physically, everything.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna keep saying this as someone who was born and raised in Ukraine. This is reminding me of all the wrong things. This is how it starts. You take away the right to due process, and you say, oh, we can't have due process for these people that are here illegally. But then you also don't really have to have any proof that somebody's here illegally to detain them or whatever. It's like they just have to not be able to show you the right paperwork on the spot, which is exactly how it started in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
You can't deny, like, you can literally go back at history and like that was the first step. And the fact that our president is trying to pretend right now like we're at war, like he's signing wartime acts into law.
With Canada too. Like, why are we beefing with Canada? Never makes sense to me, ever. That to me is like, if you were a Republican, how do you look at this and justify it in any way, shape, or form? Like, how is this not the end?
Oh,
end
they
of
can
it?
absolutely justify it. I don't know how, but oh yeah. I'm going to be upset if I don't have access to avocados.
I know.
That's
I'm going to be
piss
really
me
sad.
off. Like, that's like a huge part of my diet. I'm going to be pissed if I look around. I have to pay $10 for one avocado. I'll do it,
And I'm
probably, but I don't want to.
And I'm in
No,
Texas, and I've
seriously.
been enjoying my cheap avocado prices, if
See?
I'm honest, and because like I'm right on the
Yeah.
border.
Right.
But it's climbing up now at HEB. It's climbing up to be at least like $1.50, $2 per
Yeah.
avocado. So
Oh, you are so lucky.
You're lucky. I was going to say we're paying
Because
like
we,
$4.99.
it's like
that's
double
high
and
for
triple.
us.
We're paying $4
That's-
for one avocado. Sometimes more than that, depending on where you at, depending on the size and depending on
Bless
like
your
the
heart.
store. Like, it's horrible.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's not just the avocados. It's just everything.
it's everything.
It'll be everything.
I saw like somebody that works at a grocery store talking about how they were, replacing the price stickers, and everything was like twice as expensive. Like, things are going up in price really
Absolutely.
quickly
Yep.
and exponentially. And then she was like, and then tell me why we come in like 2 days later and we have new price tags and it's even more expensive. And so I don't know, anyone that's thinking that groceries haven't gotten more expensive or saying that they've gotten cheaper is
You
literally
got blinders on.
delusional.
Like,
Yeah. There's no eggs anywhere. We can't find eggs, and no other countries will sell us eggs, like
oh yeah,
send
that's
eggs to
so
the
funny.
US.
Like, he was
They're
threatening.
basically out here begging for eggs, and no other country is going to send us eggs.
Like, you were threatening to annex like Greenland,
Mhm.
and now you want eggs from them. Like, of course. What did you think they were gonna say? Be so real with that.
I guess we might have to look into a no egg future. I mean, there might come a
That'll
time
be
when we
the
just
least
can't
of our.
eat
That'll
them.
be the best
It will.
case scenario.
I
That'll
agree.
be the
Yep.
least of our concerns. Oh my
I
God! Make
agree.
sure y'all have a current passport. That's all I'm gonna say. There's 4 or 5 conditions under which your country has become like a fascist state, and we are on step 1, moving closer to step 2. The moment that they start executing like judges or reporters or anything like that, you got to leave the country, and I'm not joking. That at that point,
I agree.
because we're already
I mean, I think we're
messing
kind of
with free
there
speech.
because they didn't execute Snowden, but they just exiled him, and he lives, I think, in Russia now, if I'm not mistaken.
Ironically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to see things that happen in Russia often start happening here, you know, like the whole Alexei Navalny. Like, that's going to be that guy that was arrested for protesting and has now been disappeared. Mahmoud, I forget his last name.
Khalil?
But yeah. Yes, thank you. Mahmoud Khalil. And that's basically going to be the new face of like, oh, he supports Hamas and like all this stuff. They're basically like spreading around misinformation about him, just like Putin used to about Navalny, saying that like, oh, he wants to corrupt Russia and like he's the corrupt one, and like they're pointing all these fingers when really they're projecting. And yeah, they're going to be making examples out of people. And when they start doing that, that's a sign to just like buy a one-way ticket out of here, drive to Canada,
They're
seek
already
asylum.
kicking veterans out of town halls. Like, I saw this one, clip of TikTok going around of this veteran saying, "You don't give a damn about us, and we voted for you." And he's just kind of voicing his frustration at his congressman, and because they're hosting these like town halls and where they are, and even then. I think there was an order before telling them, not to allegedly to, host these town halls anymore because their constituents are angry, and rightfully so. And once they're being called out, they're kicking them out of these town halls. Like, there was that woman that got kicked out.
Yeah, I was just thinking about her.
And now there's this veteran getting kicked out. And if that's not, the end all be all, I don't know what is.
Because I'm like, who are the town halls for? Isn't it for the people to show up?
It's for us.
Right. So it's like,
that's our right.
Now you can't even like, so what's the point in having one? But I know why. It's just
now
a performance.
All of our rights are just being turned into privileges.
It's just a performance.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Our Bill of Rights is now just a list of privileges if they can just be taken away at a moment's notice. Like our freedom of speech.
I said this last year. I said it looks like the Constitution won't be the thing. That's just that's what it's looking like. There won't be a Constitution at some point. And if it is, it won't be in our favor. It'll be everything. I don't know. That's what it seems like. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But it's very scary. I do feel like we're inching closer and closer.
I'm very scared
every day.
too.
Yep. And it just, it doesn't really help that the Democrats are like not on our side. And they basically are just finger wagging and
I think the moment
rolling over.
People realize that, the Democrats are further right than you realize.
Yeah.
It all kind of makes sense. Like, they're more likely to be basically neoliberal, and they're not at all, with Bernie Sanders on anything. Because people thought, Democrats are more likely to be with Andrew Yang or Bernie Sanders, but there's a reason why they didn't platform them.
Yeah.
At any of these like conventions and things like that. They're kind of on their own, and they kind of ran their own like sort of platforms. Like, that's what Bernie Sanders is doing. He's going to all these like formerly Republican districts and he's flipping them. Well, that's the hope that he's trying to do. And so there's a reason why like the Democrats didn't, kind of put him in the spotlight, or Andrew Yang for that matter, because they're just too popular and they're too far left. And the Democrats have been allegedly bought out by some of the same, billionaires that the Republicans are bought out by.
Of course.
That's why they're acting the same way.
I see the Republicans and the Democrats as like two artists that, sing or rap about different things, but they both belong to the same record label.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just
Yep.
the way it is. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
It's just the lesser of two evils, but they're both not, I don't know. It's a
Absolutely.
game. And, I've even had thoughts where it's like, are they all just kind of working together, but then, like, behind the scenes, but then in front of us, we're given this illusion that we have a choice?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's
I
always
always think
just been
about
one
that.
big illusion of choice, in my opinion, as far as capitalism goes.
Well, because the real choice is money, and everyone's going to say yes to money under capitalism. It's really that simple. The
choice is money or starve.
Yeah.
Literally.
When did you have tea?
I did. It was at the veterans, kind of being walked out of town hall. And the reason why we haven't, called it a recession yet is just because we still are trying to get our Q4 numbers in from October, November, December. And in order for it to be officially declared a recession is that the Federal Reserve has to come out and say it, like declare it, and it move forward that way. And so we're slow getting those Q4 numbers. And once we get our Q1 numbers, which this first quarter is just about to close, I think we have a couple more weeks left. And then whenever we have those Q4 numbers and those Q1 numbers, if it's been 2 consecutive low lows of our GDP, that's when they can come out and say. But it takes a while to get all those numbers put together for our GDP, because our GDP makes up so many things. It's like consumer spending, government spending, and it's like net exports, which we don't really export much, so that kind of covers it. So it's basically just consumer spending and government spending and investments and things like that. And as we've seen, it's not been a lot of like consumer spending, because we've seen how the Dow, like literally as Trump was declaring these tariffs, we saw the Dow drop so many points in the corner of Fox News.
It was a drastic, wasn't it drastic drop?
It lost, I think it was like 1,500 points and things like that. And the reason why the Dow is so important is because it makes up so many of our companies that are based in the United States. Think like Amazon, think like some of these manufacturing companies, and like all these like big wig companies that employ a lot of people. This is what kind of is used as like a pre-indicator of our GDP. Even though it's not considered our GDP, it kind of might as well be. So that's why, people place so much emphasis on the Dow if you're in finance. So yeah, and also the Dow kind of also represents how the health of other stocks are going to be going forward in the future. So like if the Dow is dropping, other stocks might drop, and that's what we've seen. So it's like a precursor and a pre-indicator of the health of the stock market. So yep.
So basically, and this is just my observation, we are in a recession. They just haven't announced it yet. Just hang tight. We're waiting until they announce it.
I will just say a lot of recession indicators are popping off.
Yeah.
As that. And
the funny thing is, I felt this way since last year. Like I don't know, this might sound crazy. You know how you can just feel a shift in the world? Like something just feels a certain way. I felt it last year, but they're just holding off on, but they're gonna announce it, y'all. It's just only a matter of time.
As far as I know, this would be the first recession that was fully triggered by presidential policies alone. Alone. Because before, recessions could have been just not out of the blue, but it could have been kind of like market conditions, or like it could be supply side or demand side.
Yeah.
So we've seen kind of like supply chain shocks like during COVID, and that kind of caused like this slump in our GDP. Like if you look up on the FRED, the Federal Reserve economic data, you see like that dip in 2020. That was whenever the ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. And let's see, the oil prices went up quite a bit. And so that caused kind of a slowdown in certain delivery mechanisms and things like that. So when our supply chains kind of got shocked that way, that kind of created that downward slope that we saw. And also like we were very slow to act on that. And I think before, 1970 something, we had what was called kind of like a stagflation, again, because of oil. So that's why oil is so important. But now what we're seeing is just like even the luxury spending sectors are seeing a slowdown too, because they're predicting that, because of these tariffs, that if they have the money now, they won't in the future. So they're kind of pulling back on some of their spending. And that's what some of these like luxury brands have reported on, is like they've seen less of their marginal returns on things like that. So yeah.
There's this other guy real quick that I follow, and he keeps up with like what the CEO of Walmart is saying, or the CEO of Target is saying. Yeah, he was saying that for Dollar General, or was it Dollar Tree? I want to say it was Dollar General. That they have been reporting that people have only been coming in and buying essential stuff like toilet paper, tissue. All the other stuff has just been sitting on the shelves, like because people like they don't need it. If you don't need this, then people aren't getting it. So they've been noticing that as well. It's definitely going downhill from here, unfortunately. Just got to prepare for it. Do your best. Try not to spend. I'm taking my own advice because Temu and Fashion Nova and Amazon every fucking week. I'm definitely cutting back. I know it's hard, ladies.
Have you seen those prices go up too?
Huh?
Have you seen any of those like Temu or Amazon prices go up? As far as you know?
I feel like Amazon has gone up for it has. And it really doesn't even depend on what you're getting. I'm seeing an increase in like normal stuff that I usually get. So Temu, no. Temu's always been like super cheap. I love Temu. I'm not trying to like endorse them or nothing, but it's like I just don't even know. The only thing I don't like is it take like 2 weeks to get stuff.
Right.
Somewhere between 1 and 2 weeks. But Amazon, same day, tomorrow, the next day. You know what I mean? Like but I've definitely been trying to cut back. Because I'm like, do I need this or do I want this?
Same,
I had a best friend that used to teach me that.
Everybody else is cutting back because like consumer spending confidence is at an all-time low right now. And even for businesses, they don't even know what to expect next because do we have tariffs or don't we have tariffs? Like, are we going forward with this or are we pulling back? That kind of also creates like a shift in market conditions and things like that because less is being spent on like future investments of like maybe expanding a store or buying equipment to kind of create what's called economies of scale. So that way you can kind of grow your business. And
that's another thing. A lot of these stores are closing many of
Forever 21 closed down. They're closing all their stores here in Texas.
Whoa.
Joann's is closing. The one here then.
Joann's is closing though because they had been bought up by a private equity company, I think twice.
Yeah.
So that was
closing down or just closing a lot of stores?
They're closing a lot of their stores. As far as I know, like it's just been Texas because I think they're closing down 21 stores here, if I'm not mistaken. So that would include some of the 21. Ones in Houston.
A lot of these stores, though, that are closing, like in the malls and stuff, a lot of them do plan on staying online.
Yeah.
The bad thing about that is if I don't know how something's going to fit, I'm not buying it online.
Yeah. Like I needed to be able to like try some stuff on. But the thing about Forever 21 though is like I'm not too upset about it. It's just because their suppliers are like on Amazon anyways. Like a lot of the same clothes you can find at Forever 21, you can find it on Amazon.
That's true. So that's very true.
I wouldn't be too depressed about it. And you could probably find it for cheaper.
Or Shein.
Yeah, Shein. Literally the exact same Shein.
Yeah, it's definitely been a transition watching these stores start wholesaling from these brands and like acting like, oh yeah, no, we're just putting out clothes as usual. And it's like, no, H&M used to have nice clothes. Like
I know
you used to be able to buy something from H&M and it lasts you like 5, 6, maybe longer years. And now it's just all garbage.
Yeah, it's all garbage. It falls apart and like you got like loose seams or like little threads falling out. Like, cause like, look at this. Like I got even some threads.
Yeah, no, it's
that are
really
bad. Coming off.
Even on it, like quote unquote expensive clothes, they're just not being made with that much. And as somebody that grew up with like a fashion girly mom, like I know things and I can see it from like the store windows. I can see that like the pants are not sewn right. Like I'm like, walking by like a brandy store and I'm like, no, those pants are gonna look funny.
Oh yeah, Brandy Melville. Those textile, like the material wise, like it's so sheer.
And you can just tell how cheap everything looks from like far away even. I don't know.
So wait, so basically one good wear and then that's once you wash it or once you wear it, it's over. That's terrible. They can't possibly think that's going to sustain itself though. People are just going to not even bother.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've been thrifting for the longest time because of this. Like I'm literally like, I would rather just, find the stuff that's still made out of like cotton or wool or silk or whatever, because even nowadays things will be advertised as silk and then you get it and it's rayon or whatever. It's not even like, silk. Like it's fake. It's crazy.
Rayon.
Yeah, thrifting is where it's at. When it comes, you will find a lot of timeless pieces that were made.
Yeah, thrifting
back in the day that were made well, and I get a lot of nice stuff out of there whenever I go. I'd be in there for
Me
a few
too.
hours because I
Yep.
literally be looking. Like I'd be
You
in
have
there.
to look at every
Yeah.
single piece, and it
Mhm.
gets annoying, but if you do it, you will be rewarded.
Definitely. That is so true.
This has been Thrifting Tips with, no, I'm just kidding.
With Sovereign.
But even some
YP.
thrifting stores, they carry Shein now, and you just gotta
Yeah.
look at those tags a little bit more
Oh,
closely.
yeah.
There was
Yep.
another one I saw, Pretty Little Thing. I've seen that in a few stores. Yeah.
Yeah. So things are just very slowly but surely falling apart and getting worse. So just, be aware, be mindful.
Get an extra pack of tissue if you can when you're out. Get an extra pack of soap. No, I'm so
Not the
serious.
tissue.
No,
But yeah,
I'm
The
bringing up
Costco
tissue
bag of rice.
because of the pandemic. Remember when
Yeah.
the tissue was a problem?
The toilet paper, yeah.
Yeah, so just get an extra bag of beans when you go out. Get
The lentils.
get a lot of
Dried
non-perishable
food. Yeah.
Canned
and just kind of
goods.
stock up. It's better to have it and not need it instead of need it and not have it.
Exactly. You can always donate it too, if
Yeah.
it starts to expire or whatever, and you
Yeah.
happen to be financially still okay. So yeah, either way, not a bad idea. So stay safe out there, y'all. We are going to move on and speak to our guest because they're probably waiting for us to pick up the phone. So let's go.
Yay!
All right, let's give a warm studio welcome to Savannah from the iconic FDS.
Hey. Hey, Queens.
So excited to have you on.
It's
We're
good to be
huge
here.
fans.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And I'm all for women starting their own podcast to speak truth to power. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Would you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself and, maybe a little bit about FDS?
Yeah, of course. So FDS, aka the Female Dating Strategy, I guess it sort of had its origins on Reddit. It was a very, I'd say, popular subreddit. And it really, really took off around 2020 when COVID hit. And I think that was a time when a lot of people, including a lot of women, because we had to stay at home, it gave us a lot of time to reassess our dealings with men. And I think that COVID period radicalized men. It also radicalized women in a way that just hasn't been seen before, because we had this online community where, there was a lot of the mods. They would write a lot of very, very almost like personally attacked posts. It wasn't meant to personally attack women, but you would read the post that we're saying and it would be like, damn, I feel personally attacked. But then you also had this community of women who were also dealing with the same thing. And it didn't matter if, I know that Reddit is quite US centric, but we had women from all over the world saying the same thing. This guy's a scrote, this guy is doing this guy's doing that. And yeah, so we started to make waves on Reddit because we challenged or tried to challenge the idea that, that dating should be low effort for men, that women shouldn't have high standards. We challenged all of that. And about at the end of 2020, I suppose a couple of us mods, we decided, why don't we do a podcast? Bearing in mind, none of us had any media experience at all. And we were dispersed around the world. So Ro was in the US and Lilith was in Canada and I was in the UK. And we just thought, we'll just give it a go, because I think there is something about putting a voice to ideologies, which I think is powerful. So
Absolutely.
We started.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I just think it just gives it a bit of a different edge. And I think that I remember some of the men listening to us were like, they actually sound like nice people.
Yeah, I bet they were so surprised.
Because I suppose when you're typing, you don't really, I think you miss a lot of the personal connection. And that's why I wanted to do the podcast. You just wanted to be three women who were just talking about dating and then basically encouraging women to seek and to do better. And that was how the podcast was born. So yeah, FDS ideology, I think it has become, or is starting to hopefully become, a lot more mainstream. But we still also have a lot of work to do still.
100%.
Always. Women's work is just never done.
Never.
Exactly.
It's not.
And I feel like y'all walked so that so many of us could run. And, y'all are still running. It's just, it's not to take away from that. It's just that finding FDS was something that gave me permission, to finally stop beating around the bush of like, why am I noticing these certain patterns? Or like, why does it seem like this is always the outcome of like certain situations? And just putting the concrete words behind it and really calling it out, that cognitive dissonance or whatever that exists under the patriarchy, where we're not allowed to say anything. And I think that is so important. And it's, why women are always being silenced. But it is one of those things that helps to keep the constructs in place. And it was so refreshing and so liberating to see y'all just come out and start calling things what they are. And I mean, I can honestly say I wouldn't have my platform if it weren't for FDS. I wouldn't, probably be here today. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And that's ultimately what it's about. It's about empower. I don't like the word empowering because it's really been hijacked by like the most disempowering shit. But I'll use it because it's late and I can't do a good alternative word. I'm lazy. But I think, that is what FDS is about. It's about empowering women and getting them to realize that they can do better and that they deserve better as well. And then what they're getting. A common critique of FDS that we often get is that, we say, oh, all women are queens, all women are this and all women are that. And, we do believe that women are inherent queens, but we are also not afraid to call out like the bad behavior in other women and to tell women that actually, get your shit together. You can, you like essentially you're better than this.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid to do that. And that has sometimes landed us in several pots of hot water, but
that's why we had you on, because I figured if any podcast would understand how to address criticism, it would be FDS, because they've had nothing but criticism and controversy since their inception on Reddit.
Yeah, pretty much from the start. I think I don't think there is. If we look at feminism, I don't think there is a branch of feminism that hasn't gone after FDS at some point. And in a way, I think me personally, I don't like to subscribe to any sort of ideology, whether that's political, whether that is around feminism, purely because FDS operates from a female-first standpoint. And as a result, we recognize that not every aspect of feminism or like liberalism or conservatism actually has women's best interests at heart. Or if women, do actions within, certain branches of feminism, even radical feminism, I would say, and I would say I'm most closely aligned to radical feminism, it's not always in a woman's best interest. And that is where the contention comes, I think, from branches of feminism, because we get accused of being anti-feminist, anti-women, when really we are about being essentially female first, and that is not always compatible with feminism.
There's obviously so much to unpack there, and it really feels like this is one of the biggest issues facing women trying to make a difference, especially for other women, is that then you go into it thinking like, oh yeah, the male trolls are going to be bad. You go into it knowing that the men are not going to like you, right? And then the truck that you don't see that hits you at 100 miles an hour is, what some of your biggest and most dedicated haters will be women. And not conservative women, mind you.
Yeah.
Right.
Not even the conservative women. It will be, it'll be women just from different factions of feminism or just different ideological places or places of different experience even, that will try to undermine and undercut the message. And that can be very disheartening to deal with. So, we would love to hear, kind of your experience with it, kind of what you've learned from that, because this doesn't just happen to like female content creators. This can be, as women sort of embrace feminism more and more, like embrace liberation or even empowerment, these ideas of empowerment, there are going to be times where we're coming together trying to agree on things, or we're coming together trying to make a difference for women as a whole. And what ends up happening is people start splitting hairs and saying, well, if you say it like this, or if you say it like that,
Yeah.
or, this is where, like even in online spaces, having debates with women can be very difficult, even just as somebody who's trying to engage in discourse. So yeah, we'd just love to hear your 2 cents on that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that it used to upset me when I'd see women coming for FDS, especially when, FDS was essentially started to help women. It wasn't begun, I suppose, to oppose men per se, even though men take up a lot of the discourse because we like to highlight their bad behavior and the ways in which the patriarchy has essentially conned women to accepting their shit behavior. But I mean, one thing I would say is that I have always found it quite fascinating the way in which, men, right, if they want to oppress women, they don't care if, their fellow man is a conservative, if he's a liberal, if he voted for Trump, if he voted for Biden, if he voted for Keir Starmer, if he voted Green, right? When they want to band together to oppress women, absolutely none of that matters. And they can unite over that common goal of oppressing women, right? But when it comes to women wanting to break free of the patriarchy, then it is very easy for a woman to cancel another woman because she voted conservative, or she voted for Trump, or she voted a different way, or she said something that you didn't like. It happened a lot in FDS, actually, for the podcast. We would get people who would be raging about a podcast episode that they hadn't even listened to. They would just go by the title and then just get angry about that. And then they'd be ranting about something that we didn't even say. And they would cancel us because, and I think it comes back to misogyny, where women are held to a much higher standard than men. Because in these sorts of spaces, a woman can be cancelled by other women for doing a lot less than a male content creator would do.
Facts.
And again, it just comes back to misogyny, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously this is a form of like internalized misogyny as well. Like, I don't know if that plays into it very much, but it's just been interesting trying to figure out, I've started kind of wording it like this, that like it should not surprise us that men support the patriarchy so wholesale and that it's so easy for them to do that, not because of what they're born with as far as genitals, but because the brainwashing works so well that even most women have misogyny or internalized misogyny and can't see past that in order to unite with other women.
Yeah, agreed. And I think some of it is also, it sort of comes back to what we've just said, but some of it is also entitlement as well. I think, when we talk about emotional labor from women, we often talk about it and we say that men expect a lot of emotional labor from women, but so do other women. They expect a lot of free emotional labor from other women, and then they get very angry when they don't get it.
That's such a good point.
It is.
So why don't more women have any solidarity? And first of all, what is solidarity, and how can women take a page out of men's bro code?
Oh, it's a good question. I think, again, we spoke about it. I think internalized misogyny is one of them. And I think it happens on a subconscious scale. I think some of it could be the fact that women expect other women to just be better than men and hold them to a higher standard than that. But also that also overlooks the fact that women are human and we make a lot of mistakes. This is also why I don't believe in cancel culture generally, because it disproportionately affects generally people of color and women especially. And in terms of solidarity, I think sometimes women get too bogged down in the differences, in the detail, in our differences. And we don't think about the common goal in the sense that we all want, or most of us, we want a world that is free from patriarchy. We just have different ideas on how we're going to get there. And one thing FDS tried to do is that we tried to find commonalities between different groups of women. If we accept that we live in a patriarchy, then every woman is impacted, regardless of if she votes for Trump or Biden or Keir Starmer or the Tories in the UK, right? Every woman is impacted by patriarchy. It's not just a case of, well, they voted a different way to me, so basically they can fuck off. I don't think that is helpful discourse. And again, it doesn't promote that feeling of solidarity that men always have. Because again, if you look under any post around, my tweets tend to go viral, which is really annoying because it brings all the incels to the yard. But if you look at the men that are backing each other up, they don't care what way they voted. Yeah. They don't care about their background. They don't care if, they're racist even. You should really care if they're racist, but they don't care about their other politics. They just see it as, I'm going to back this guy against a woman. And they do it. So I do think that women could perhaps take a leaf out of that and sometimes just put aside the detail in the differences and give other women the benefit of the doubt and realize that we are stronger together than we are divided, which is why, the patriarchy, in a way, it can sow the seeds of discord between groups of women.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where I was going to transition with that. So it's interesting that you kind of ended up there, because I do feel like one of the greatest tricks that the devil ever pulled was like convincing women via the patriarchy that the patriarchy has benefits for certain of them that are too great to give up, or that, there's some aspects of it that can and are beneficial to women, like the women that have been going on TikTok recently and saying, well, why didn't anybody ask me if I want feminism? Because I don't want to go to work and stuff like that, and just kind of missing Summer.
Because I was literally just thinking about that. I swear to you, I was just thinking about that.
Oh my God.
No, I was literally just thinking that. Like, I feel like, unfortunately, there's going to always be that group of women that wants what patriarchy promised them. The same way these men want what patriarchy promised them, a wife slave and a legacy, aka lineage.
The mommy bang maid.
Yeah. The woman, some of these certain types of women are like, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to work myself to the bone. I want to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. And that's fine. I'm not knocking that. The only thing I always say on almost every video is, if you do that, make sure you got things in place to protect you and your children in the event that doesn't work out, or they die, or they leave you for a younger woman or whatever, because that's what happens. But those women who are lazy and who just don't want to do anything and just lay under the thumb of a man like a child for the rest of their lives, I feel like it's so many of them that's why we can't make progress as a group. I feel like it's not enough of them. And so that's why lately I've been taking on the mindset, like, just leave them behind, because they're going to hold the rest of us back. And we got a destination. We got somewhere we're trying to get to. Y'all want to be late to the party? Fine. You don't want to show up at all? Fine. We're going to keep it moving. Otherwise, if you don't see it that way, you're just going to go crazy. Like, they're going to drive you nuts, trying to help everybody. And I just don't know another way to deal with it but to just say,
can't save them all.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
That's as you said.
Some of them,
some women
like their little guilty cages,
and some women are just gonna go out sad. But at the same time, it's like these trad wives on TikTok. It's sort of like, well, if you want to be a trad wife, literally no one is stopping. I don't know why
exactly.
Even feminism is not stopping you from doing that. Like, it's feminism is giving you options. Just go and be a trad wife. And it's quite ironic, I think, that a lot of the prolific trad wives, they make a lot of money by engagement farming.
Exactly.
So you still have a
still
job.
Working.
That's still working. Exactly. So
they work really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Candace Owens was still doing her speeches, and she was 8 months pregnant, 7, 8 months. She was ready to pop.
It's also wild that they trash feminism, but taking an anti-feminist position is ultimately them financially benefiting from the feminist narrative. So it's like, if it wasn't for feminism, you wouldn't actually have a job, because there'd be no narrative to oppose that gets you attention and engagement and clicks and money.
And we can't get Candace Owens to realize that. We can't, like, no matter what happens, we
I
can't
think
get
they know
her
what
to
they're
realize.
doing. I think they know what they're doing. It's the
But
game.
it's so fake that it's so annoying because it's just
it
fake.
is.
Like, you guys, a conservative way is to be traditional, and you guys want to be traditional, and you want to be career women, while you're literally talking into a microphone with a whole network behind you.
And you're getting
Right.
paid.
What?
Talking about
Oh
men
my
like
God.
submissive women.
And you're getting
Men
paid.
don't
A lot
like
of
You are
women with-
working, ma'am. You are working
Yeah.
very hard. Like, what are you talking about?
And
I
I'm
can't.
sure her salary is higher than most men as well. So
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just, and
The irony.
Yeah, I think that's why she's on that side, because they're paying her to. That's just the vibe I get. I don't know. I'm just using her as an example. I'm not like trying to pick on Candace Owens, but like,
and it's just you
there's-
sort of see like a less refined, sadder example in the form of Pearl. I do feel bad for Pearl, to be honest,
Yes.
like because
who?
even
Wait, who?
Pearl.
Pick me, Pearl.
Oh, Pearl. Oh God.
Pick me.
Don't get me started.
I do sort of feel sorry for her though, because anytime she comes out with like one of her outlandish stuff, even the men that she's trying to pander to for money, they just reject her too. So I just think it's all a bit of it's a hot mess. But
That's the even more funny part. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, but all these women, they benefit from feminism. So it's even taking that opposing stance. If it wasn't cool to trash feminism, they'd be out of a job. So
Oh my
my
gosh.
God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
So true.
And it's interesting because you see this a little bit too with like the conservative and Democratic Party as well. So like the Conservative Party can really, what's it called? Like unite and have a very united stance on an issue, no matter what the issue. Whereas the Democratic Party is going to have all sorts of, opinions and end up eating itself from the inside out, like every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting because it's just like, it makes me think like, why is that? And it feels like it's just really simple to have a non-complex point of view. But then once you start dealing with people that have done, maybe the work, that have, read a lot, that have educated themselves a lot, they hold those opinions a lot tighter because it's like, it was harder to come by, et cetera. Like, I want to acknowledge that too. Like when we hear criticism from women, it is usually like, it's frustratingly like well-researched and like thoughtful and everything like that, to the point where like, unless you're, coming to it from the right lens, it can be really cause you to sort of doubt yourself and be like, man, like, where's all of this coming from? But I do want to acknowledge that like there is one side that's going to typically tend to be more thoughtful about things, that's going to do more research about things.
Mm-hmm.
And that same side is typically going to be the side with a lot of differing opinions and a lot of sort of like the most diverse points of view that seem to be really hard to reconcile on because everybody's holding it just so tightly. Like they're like, no, like I believe in this, or I have experience with this, or this happened to my friend, and this is why I can't stand behind y'all saying this, this, and this. And, it is sort of encouraging in that way that it's like, at least it's not like thoughtless pandering, like, thoughtless criticism or just hateful, or like, at least the women are not here telling us we're going to die alone with a bunch of cats. But it's,
projection at its finest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's just something that I think about. It just reminds me of the whole, Democratic versus Republican thing. Like when the opinions are just handed down to you, when you're not expected to think about or do your own research or whatever, even though they're the party of do your own research, but like their research is going on Facebook and, like
literally,
reposting a
TikTok
deep fried
even.
meme. Yeah. And it's like, that's not research, I promise you. But yeah, that's just a thought I had. I don't know if anyone has input on it, but.
No, I totally agree.
You've said it all. But I had another question for Savannah. It's just that, why do you think radical feminism continues to take such a backseat in terms of like the mainstream, despite a lot of agreements? Like a lot of women can agree with the logical points of view that radical feminists have.
Because I think that I mean, first of all, radical means like root, but when people think of radical, they think of something extreme. And, it's really about going back to the roots of feminism. And I would say a big reason why this happens is essentially being intellectually lazy, right? It's one thing to acknowledge that men ain't shit, for example. It's something else completely to change how you deal with men. And I follow the Slum Flower on Instagram. I would recommend. She's a British Nigerian woman who has quite a good message around when it comes to men. And one of the things that she has said repeatedly, and I'm starting to agree with her, is that the issue is, if we're talking about this in the context of dating and, women interacting with men, is that a lot of women, they like men more than they like themselves. And I think that there is a lot of truth to that statement, unfortunately, because the reason why radical feminism, people will listen to it and say, yeah, I agree, men ain't shit. But then what are you going to do with that information? If you're acknowledging that men ain't shit, but you're still, I don't know, engaging in casual sex or, giving them the benefit of the doubt or, not essentially following through on your threats to leave because he's a slob and doesn't pick up after himself, or he's keeping you as a forever girlfriend, then, knowing that is basically pointless. And I think the reason why feminism lacks so much teeth is that there are a lot of women who, I mean, they might know on an intellectual level that about, the truth of men and about patriarchy, but it's, okay, where's the action? What are you going to do with that information? And we're starting to see it a little bit, but it was funny when after the US election, there was a lot of talk about the 4B movement. And I swear to God, I've had periods that have lasted longer than that whole trend of going 4B on X, because I don't even think it lasted 24 hours before women were saying, well, I'm married, but I can still be 4B. Like, no, you can't.
Right.
No, you can't.
You can be married and support it.
You can support it.
You can be an ally.
You can be an ally, for sure.
If you continue to deal with if you willingly deal with men in any way, shape or form, you cannot be 4B. I have a lot of respect for the 4B movement, but I am not 4B because I deal with men. I willingly deal with men. But it just goes to show just how quickly, right, the action was diluted to include men. The very same group that movement is designed to exclude for good reason.
Yeah, I remember when the 4B thing was like more popular, like last year, when I first got on TikTok. I considered myself 4B because I was single, wasn't dating, wasn't sexually active. I'm child free. I'm never having children. I never plan to get married. And then I ended up, getting into a relationship towards the end of last year. But I still, when I hear women say that they are celibate and have been celibate for 12 years or 5 years or 3 years or 20 years, which they come on my platform on a TikTok and YouTube mostly on a daily basis saying how long they've been celibate. Like, they don't date men, they don't deal with men anymore. I get excited because, it makes me happy because I feel like even though I have a man, I'm so happy that women are choosing to not have children, are choosing to not get married, because it's a way to fight patriarchy in whatever way you want to fight patriarchy. So you fighting patriarchy may mean I'm not getting married, I'm not changing my last name, or you may say I'm not having kids, or you could say I don't date men anymore, I date women. Whatever it is, that's why I support it. I support anything women do that fights patriarchy. But even though that I'm like dating someone and like we're all like Lisa, Gwen, like we're all in relationships, but we support it because it's a step in the right direction, because we don't need every single woman to stop dating men. We just need a certain percentage, right? I'm just being honest. Like, we don't need we know every single woman isn't going to be 4B. Most women are not. But if it's a step in the right direction, then it's like great. And I always say after this relationship, like I'm done. If and when it doesn't work out, I'm literally going back to 4B. Yeah, this is the last. Yeah. This is it. So so I support it for that reason. And people come there and they're like, "How do you support 4B and you're not?" I'm like, because the same way I support the LGBT community and I'm not gay. Like, exactly. You know what I mean? It's the same concept.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because we were joking about it and we were saying we know that this is going to blow over for most women like tomorrow, you know, and I feel like it kind of did, but
It did.
it didn't. I feel like so this is going to be a slow moving thing. More women are moving towards that direction. And it's just, it didn't happen when everybody was talking about it, but I can see it slowly happening. And that's why they're rolling back Roe versus Wade. That's why they're doing all of this stuff, because they're seeing women are serious. Women are, they're complaining about the birth rates being down all over the world because women are cutting back in whatever way they can. You may have a man in your life, but don't have kids. Or, you know, women are fighting back and slowly. I do think I know for a fact we're making progress because of all the rights that they keep trying to roll back, because they're like, it's too many women that's doing this. So now we gotta find a way to stop women from doing this. Now we have to keep them in these marriages.
Yeah.
They're getting ready they're trying to overthrow no-fault divorce here. I didn't know, wasn't sure if you knew that or not. Which basically would keep women stuck in marriages.
And remove voting rights.
And removing voting rights.
Oh
yeah.
my
Save
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I know
gosh.
we're making progress, because every time we make any bit of progress, they find a way to set us back 100 years. That's
Literally.
Yeah.
And they've seen, like what women will do once they have the choices and the options.
And it won't be men. And it won't be men. That's what they won't be. That's what women won't be doing.
Definitely. So yeah, I get excited when women say, "Oh, I'm done." The only thing that pisses me off is when they say, "I'm done, so you need to be done too. And if you're not, then you are an evil woman." And it's like, okay, ma'am, I get your passion, but everybody got their own life, and we all got to figure out what works for us. As long as we support each other as women to accomplish this common goal, that is all that matters. It's gonna look different for every woman.
Yeah, as long as we're actually fighting the patriarchy, that is the point.
And not each other.
Exactly. The thing is, like, marriage is a patriarchal construct, right?
Yeah.
But it is also a tool. And just as any tool can be used for different things, like marriage and relationships, they don't have to represent patriarchal oppression, right? Like, for example, a lot of what I do because of my husband, because he hypes me up and talks me off the ledge of quitting often. And because he's like, no, women need to hear this. And, he kind of is the driver behind, like, he'll be like, you can say that more honestly. You can go harder. Like, you can say more. And, to say that, like, my marriage in light of that is a tool of the patriarchy would be kind of crazy, right? Like, because how else are we going to dismantle the patriarchy other than using the tools that we have been given, even if the tools are insufficient or, whatever. There's so many different ways to, like, set a new standard, right? Like FDS, like the original, like, female dating strategy. Yes, the whole message was like, men ain't shit. But the other part of the message was you should be benefiting. Like, if you're dating someone, the only way for that to not be like a patriarchal thing that harms you as a woman is if you are getting yours in that relationship.
Absolutely.
If you are getting, taken care. And I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm over here just saying, like, but
correct.
But like that to me, that's kind of what it was. Is like it's a new dating strategy to weed out the men that ain't shit, which is most of them. And I stand behind that message. I'm like, if you're doing it right,
Me too.
99% of men will be weeded out.
Literally.
Yeah. And I think you hit multiple nails on the head there. And it's really quite amusing, the number of female separatists that will be mad that we talk about dating when dating is literally in our name. It's like going to KFC and being angry, serve chicken. Like we're not the female separatist strategy, FSS. We're female dating strategy.
Right.
And I really like how you said that even patriarchal constructs such as marriage can be a tool, because one of the things that FDS is about is that we deal with the world as it is, and the concept of marriage or the concept of marriage isn't going anywhere. And actually it can, being married, especially as a woman, can bring a lot of benefits that, especially if you are going to be in a romantic relationship with a man, it can bring you a lot of benefits that you won't otherwise get. So
exactly, which is why a lot of men avoid it. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And, people, especially women, sometimes they don't always see the benefits in their lifetime because patriarchy and unequal labor, all that stuff. But when it comes to things like inheritance or succession rights, if you are just shacking up with a guy and he passes away, you are not entitled to a dime of his stuff, even if you've been together for 30 years. So in that particular scenario, being married is in a woman's best interest, especially if she's going to be building a life with a man, she's going to have kids with him, because if anything were to happen to him, she'd be left with nothing, for example. And yeah, I think it ultimately comes back to, what was previously said, in that I support any woman who wants to not deal with men anymore. I can't say I blame them.
no,
But at the same time, I think there is something in, if we want the dating dynamics between men and women to change, there is something about being in the game versus, not playing at all. And then hoping that something changes, or just hoping that the human race dies out. Because I think women have a lot more power in this sphere than we think. And if all women collectively raise their standards overnight, then men would very quickly realize that they would have to either shape up, or their genes and their lineage is just going to die out. Basically.
exactly.
But that's what I think. I don't think they're going to. I think whether a woman chooses to date or chooses not to, I feel like the outcome is going to be the same. Because if every woman raises her standards, and all the 90-something% of men are going to be excluded, with every woman that raises her standards, that's going to be a whole group of men that doesn't qualify. So the overall bigger picture will be the same. The men are not getting laid. The women are not finding the loves of their lives. Like, you know what I mean? And in this day and age, especially, it's safer for women to just be by themselves. If you're not going to if you don't have someone in your corner that's not trying to harm you, because we always say the most dangerous person to a woman in her entire life is going to be her husband. Or the man that she sleeps next to at night. So it's like if you have to settle, which with this current crop of men, women will be settling, and that's dangerous. Like, your life is literally in jeopardy when you settle, especially nowadays. Like, these men are just picking their wives and girlfriends off one by one, baby mamas. I mean, every day we can't get on social media without the love of their life.
It's true.
Stabbing them 12 times or shooting them in the head. I'm just being...
Crimes of passion.
Yeah. So, if these women are saying, I'd rather be out of the game and we'll see what happens, I agree with that, because that's just like if I stop dating, I'm only just going to be worried about my safety. Like, I don't, if the patriarchy don't want to change, that's fine, but I'm not laying next to my op either. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how I would see it. And I think the women that come on my YouTube channel, they say this all the time. They're like, my life is at peace because I'm single and I don't have to deal with nobody cheating. I don't have to worry about a woman coming to me as a woman and, all this other stuff about my man and finding out like that one. No, for real.
So true.
That one lady I was telling you.
That's like coming to you as a woman.
Coming to you as a yeah. Y'all know that conversation, right?
Yes. Yes.
But that's the like hey girly.
Yeah, the hey girly.
Hey Barbara and Shirley.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But just like that story I was telling y'all about earlier, which I kind of don't want to talk about. But the one I was saying about the woman that found out her husband was cheating on her and sleeping with her side chick while she was on her period, the side chick, with no condom. And then I'm sure he was going to go home to his wife and act like nothing happened.
Like nothing happened. Oh my God.
You're better off being single than to deal with that bullshit. Seriously, like who wants to deal with that?
Yep. But that's why high standards matter. And then once
that one, I'm pretty sure that woman thought her standards were high. You don't know what these men are doing when they leave. I'm being serious.
God. No, it's true.
Even with me, I feel like my standards are high with my dude. And this is another thing. I always end up in this tizzy with people because they're like, but you're in a relationship, so how are you saying that, man? And I'm like, the difference is I'm not immune from, I can next week find out that my man is cheating on me. The difference is I'm getting the fuck out. I'm done. We don't live in the same house, which I promote living living apart together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I promote that. Like, be by yourself. Living. When you find some shit out, you can just fucking go home. That's the end of it. You know what I mean?
People ask me all the time too, and I'm like, divorce is always an option for me.
Yes.
Always has been, always will be. Like, that is the simple truth. Like, I'm not gonna stand by no man. Like,
especially who ain't standing by you.
No.
So I understand why a lot of women are like, I've been down this road so many times. I don't want to do it again. I am done. I know that there's nothing out there. I know the Cinderella stories were lies. I realize it was all a lie. The patriarchy is a lie. I'm done. I'm just going to raise my kids and travel and do whatever. Like, I just don't want to, like, I totally get it. And I think that's safer for women, of course, until the men start like taking a high position somewhere in a fucking department store and just start, getting angry. I ain't gonna say it. I do think the more women close up shop, the more dangerous men are gonna get. I do believe that, and I don't believe most men are gonna change. They're not.
No, they're definitely starting to panic. We're seeing that in American legislation, but even just, on the street where we're really, really, men are beginning to really, really panic. And I think that is both a good and a bad thing. Like you touched on, it is, it can have dangerous outcomes. We are starting to see that backlash, but at the same time, I think that the fact that men are this rattled, it goes to show that they know that a different narrative is emerging.
Yeah.
And it's a narrative that doesn't benefit them and they have to suppress it. I'll never forget when, before we even released our first episode, we had negative reviews on Apple and Spotify.
That's crazy.
Because the men, they basically tried to get us shut down before we even started, before we'd even released our first episode. And it's like, you must know that even though they say FDS is bullshit, but deep down they're scared. Because if more and more women resonate with us, then they are going to basically be shut out of the game unless they change. Yep. And they don't want to do that.
They don't.
So this is why they try to suppress our speech. This is why they spread lies about what we say. I remember as well, one of them gave a review of our first episode and they were like, oh yeah, one's a single mom, one's divorced. And it's like, all of that is bullshit. Total I mean, even if it were true, there'd be nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
The fact that they just so brazenly lie about our content.
Yes, they do it all the time.
It just goes to show that they're rattled, and I'm here for it, to be honest. They need to be rattled.
Absolutely. I was laughing about the fact that like a couple months back, a bunch of men got on TikTok and were like, women, you're going to have to lower your standards. Like, we get it, but like, you're not going to find a good man out here. Y'all are going to have to settle. And then the women were like, okay, whatever, like didn't change a single thing. And then a couple months later, the men are like, oh, well, it's okay. We have AI girlfriends now. And it's like, well, who had to settle?
Exactly.
So y'all are literally settling for a silicone fake version of us. Meanwhile, we can't be bothered to settle for y'all in the flesh.
Don't forget the part where they are on a Roomba vacuum or circling or like
it's so unsettling.
This fake robot girlfriend only knows how to circle around him. Like the way she described it in her video, I was in tears, y'all. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Because I closed my eyes and I pictured it. And I'm like, that's exactly what it's going to look like. Like they're going to just be rolling around in a circle.
And mind you, it costs as much as a house.
Yes.
It costs as much as a house.
It
costs like, exactly.
They're going to have to get on some kind of a payment plan. Because, there's
you're
no way.
complaining about taking women out to dinner, but the solution...
They're going to get a mortgage to get a fake girlfriend. Literally mortgage.
Spend 170, what was it, 170K?
Yes.
Versus a $40 dinner at Applebee's? Really? Or 2 for $20 at Applebee's? Really?
I'm just saying,
so
and like this is why women don't want to settle, because it's like, look at y'all. Like I just can't.
Like, look at that.
I can't.
They're not sitting their best.
Like literally, look at that. It's
the way she described it. Oh my God, y'all had to see it. I was crying. Oh my God. That's exactly what it would be. And then they'll start abusing the robots. Remember we were talking about how they
they already are.
Yeah.
They're abusing the AI chats or whatever, and that's what
they
don't realize about this is that the AI chat people are gathering this data and reporting back on it. And what they found is that whenever they were asked, or like the users were asked to interface with the AI and tell the AI, okay, pretend like you're my girlfriend and now we're dating and we've been dating for a while. And then the data has reported back they're abusive towards that female AI. They say these things that, they would probably never say to an actual human female, or maybe they would, I don't know. But it was just, and it was so sad. And I think it just opened up a lot of eyes for, what women go through. And I'll have to put that
That's
data
perfect. They should keep
in
doing
the
those
show
studies.
notes for y'all.
And somebody should keep doing those studies and like putting it out there. Now you see like, and here's the thing. They'll probably be even more unhinged because they don't feel like the robot can say or do anything back in the way that a human would.
Exactly.
It'll really expose just how demonic a lot of these men are. Like, no, I'm so serious.
No, it's
They're fighting demons. Not well. The demons are winning.
And the demons are panicking. But no, I think
the demons are now panicking. Like
honestly, they're panicking. And it also just goes to show, like, when men have got absolutely nothing left, they resort to brute force. They'll be like, we're just going to become more violent. That's literally all they've got, because
they've even admitted that. They've even admitted it on TikTok. We're just gonna do, like, you got a choice and stuff like that. Remember our body, your body, our choice, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, the Nick guy, Nick Fuentes guy.
There's a bunch of them guys get on there like, you ain't got no choice.
Yeah, and it's just it's frightening, and the level of entitlement is absolutely disgusting. But at the same time, people only make threats when they're scared, and men are currently the sex that is running scared at the moment. So
even though they're winning,
but they're not. But they're really not, though.
Well,
that's the thing. They're not.
They're not. They think they are, but they're not.
They're not getting babies and sex out of us, but they're still like in there writing our laws and telling women that, like, okay, if your name doesn't match the one on your birth certificate, you can't vote. They're going to take away no fault divorce. They already took away Roe.
But they're writing the laws to get us, and they're still not able to get us. They're going to see that all of these laws they're writing is going to do nothing but backfire. That's all that's going to happen.
And it's going to push people away. And I think that I'm also thinking into the future as well. Like, what is the state of, male-female relationships? What is the end game of all these men who are doing all this, I suppose, like, demonic stuff? Like, where's it going to lead? I remember when my dad was in the hospital, and he unfortunately passed away. But I remember when
I'm so sorry
he was in there. Thank you. I remember when he was in there and he was on a ward with other men, and me and my family, we would be going every single day to go and see him. We'd alternate, we'd take turns, and there were some of these older men who they never got a single visitor. And it's like, when they talk about you're going to die alone with cats, I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, there's an awful lot of lonely men out there. And then
statistically, no.
It's not true. And then I remember there was a funeral director, like, her tweet went viral around Christmas when she said, well, actually, the highest percentage of unclaimed bodies are men, because they've either got family who don't want anything to do with their burial because they don't want to pay for it, or because they just don't want to deal with it, or they've got no family to contact. They end up having to have a public health funeral. So I sort of look at these men in the future, and I'm thinking, like, if you carry on with the way you are going to be one of those people that will die alone in your apartment, and people will only find you when your body starts to smell.
I think we need to start being more vocal about that. We need to start shaming men that way.
Yeah, the same way they do us.
At this point, I'm like, we've been nice for hundreds of years. We've tried to do this the nice way. We've tried to do it, the better way. And at this point, I'm going to arm myself, and I'm not going to be nice anymore.
Facts.
And I hope that other women do the same, because at this point, the violence statistics are now going to level themselves out, ladies.
I hope we start being horrible, evil women. I love horrible women.
I know, right?
More power to you.
Lisa, did you ever see that guy on social media he basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is pretty much what he said. He said, the only reason why a lot of women are not getting, like, raped and attacked by men, the men that y'all are around every day, is because they don't want it bad enough. Do you remember, like, if they, like, you're not, he was basically saying you're never safe around Men, you don't have an option.
Yeah.
You don't have the option to turn a man down like you think you do. If he really wanted it, he would take it. Which we know that, but it was just the way that he said it, and he said it so proudly, like it was a threat, because like y'all said, the men who make these threats are afraid. But I remember thinking, like, women know this because we've been taught this ever since we were girls. But what I'm saying is they're coming out and being more brazen. They're like saying it out loud now.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And it's like, what is happening? But yeah, so that's why women do need to get armed and
join a martial art.
Join martial arts or anything, something. Start out with Taekwondo. That's what Gwen always say.
No, I'm so serious. Big advocate.
You're going to have to, because it's better to have that knowledge and have that peace on you and not need it than need it and not have it. So I'm just saying. And learn how to shoot, because a lot of women say they fear guns, and they don't. Once you learn them, there's nothing to fear anymore.
Absolutely.
So that's the key.
And for understandable reasons, some women don't want guns in their house because they either suspect their partner of finding it or their children of finding it. Yeah. Those are the ones that I advocate the most for joining a martial art. Turn your body into a weapon. Yeah, trust that your body's going to do what it's been training to do if you've been in it. And we can have another episode about this, because I love talking about martial arts. I'm a huge enthusiast of it. I've been in martial arts since I could walk, essentially, because my dad put me in Taekwondo as soon as I could.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it.
I find it's always the dads as well. Like, my dad used to watch, like, he watched a lot of true crime. And I remember thinking to myself one day, like, like, there's 1,001 ways to kill a scrote and get away with it. Because just watching so much true crime. And it was always the male serial killers that would end up fucking up really bad, and then they'd get caught. I just remember thinking, like, there's 1,001 ways to kill someone and get away with it. I was just watching true crime with my dad.
And women have been doing it for centuries.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just not getting caught.
But also, with the no-fault divorce as well, didn't someone say, like, was it... I'm not sure about the historical basis of this, but somebody said, like, no-fault divorce is actually going to backfire on men because, like, women would just kill their husbands.
Yes. So I think Sovereign was saying.
I said Savannah is going to make a comeback.
Yeah, like, eye drops.
We're going to put antifreeze in your pee. Like, you think that piece of paper is the only thing stopping us?
Oh, my God. I'm like, men, do y'all really want that? Because they think they do. They don't really care about the emotions and the health and all that of the woman. They just want their needs met. They don't care how they get it. They don't care how much they got to beat you down to get it. They just want their needs met. So I'm like, if y'all really think that in this day and age, y'all complain about modern women and the way we think. So you think a modern woman, you really want a modern woman to be tethered to you legally or whatever, where she can't escape, and you think you gonna be able to sleep peacefully at night, sir?
Better sleep with one eye open.
You gonna have to sleep with one eye open.
Also, like, if you look if you look at things like 90 Day Fiancé or the Passport Bro movement, where they literally go to countries where they know that they have an economic and financial advantage, right? You know, when they bring these women back, or after a certain period of time, these women show them absolute hell. Absolute hell.
As a Slavic woman, I've been eyewitness to many such a case, because
they show them absolute hell, and they just, and you know, these supposedly women who are traditional, submissive, they're not like Western
and
women.
It's like, is it hell, or is it just because they're holding you to the standards of a traditional partner, like a traditional husband who's going to do the things like provide and protect and those things, and like, you will have to make enough money to support her and the house,
but they act like
and
that's
whatever
abusive.
she needs, and
Yeah, so they're going to get the same outcome, especially if you bring them back here and they realize how women got it here, as far as like they can work and they can take care of themselves, whatever. It's a wrap for you, bro. It's only a matter of time before that woman either files for divorce or just runs off and leaves you or cheats or whatever, because
puts antifreeze in your coffee.
Or just put antifreeze. Absolutely. Ethylene glycol. I watch a lot of Forensic Files.
Same, I watch that as well. Yeah.
Succinylcholine. Yeah. Untraceable after 30 seconds. Yeah. That type of stuff. No,
oh my God.
I'm just being silly for Ryan. But
Right. So
no, but in real time, and like, you're not gonna force me to marry anybody and think that man's gonna sleep peacefully at night. If you beat me and tell me to go make dinner, that's literally going to be the last dinner you ever eat.
Yeah.
You're not waking up in the morning, sir. Or maybe you got a couple more days before I'm so serious. Like, what? I'm a modern woman. I have a modern mindset. Don't forget that. Like, y'all don't like modern women. This is how we fucking think now.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, and this is how women have always thought, you know, to be fair.
Well, I know,
and
for sure.
Then, you know, women, you know, we've always managed to find a way. Like when people say we'll ban abortion, there's no such thing because women will get abortions. They'll find a way to do it.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with getting out of shitty marriages as well. I'm sure women found a way in 1837 of getting away from like these men. Like they found a way to do it.
Yeah.
So
they're going to find a way. Yeah, that's what I said too about the abortion laws. It's not going to stop abortions. It's just going to stop safe abortions. Which is why Roe versus Wade happened in the first place, because women were having what they called back alley abortions back then.
Yeah.
So now if they outlaw it, it's just going to be more back alley abortions. But now, since we're more advanced technologically, if that's the right word, there's probably better ways to do it, even better than like in the 70s or whatever.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Women will find a way. It's not going to work the way that they think it's going to.
And speaking of the 70s, like fun fact, there used to be like bleach ads that would heavily insinuate that it can be used for an abortion. Like there was a bleach ad in which a woman is like, you know, marking off her period on a calendar or something, and she realizes like it hasn't come. And like that's the punchline is like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
I've never seen
70s ads had no chill.
No chill.
I gotta look this up. I'm so fascinated. My God, what?
I'll try to find it and we'll put it in the show notes. But like, because I know I've heard like a whole breakdown of this, that like abortions were never, even like in a system like capitalism, you know, people are going to find a way to make money. And if abortion is it, that's going to be it. Like, put out an ad that's like, oh, hey, drink some bleach. Like,
it's crazy. But I love it. Oh, I'm fascinated.
Yep.
You gotta find
capitalism
this.
really does breed a solution to everything.
It really does.
Here's the problem: capitalism will find the solution and sell it to you.
And I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some doctors that are like under the table. You know, like
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
As there always have been.
Yeah.
Well, Savannah, we kind of have to, you know, wrap this up so that our editor doesn't have to do hours and hours of editing. But
that's fine.
I can tell we could definitely stay here for hours, and, you know, maybe, well, like, we should definitely plan on having you come back.
Definitely. Or you should come, or you guys should come over to the FDS podcast as well and speak to the host.
We would be so honored.
And speak to the host.
Just let us know when. We'll be there.
Yeah.
That'll be so good. But this is really, really fun.
Good. I'm so glad.
We've loved having you here.
Yeah. Isn't it fun to meet like new women that are like-minded or similar? Like we have a lot of the same like ideas. It's the best.
100%. That's one of the best things about doing the FDS podcast, is just meeting so many like-minded women around the world, really. Yeah, that's been awesome.
And we can have a conversation, even if we disagree on things. It's like we can still just like,
and
we can still find the enemy, and that's patriarchy.
And it's not us.
Men.
Yeah,
it's not each other.
Yeah. Can I give you one more question to sort of, you know, phase us out with? This is one of Gwen's questions, but I just thought it was really good. With all that being said, what, in your opinion, does an intersectional approach to feminism look like in practical terms? How can we all be better about that? And, you know, intersectional, we often apply that term to like race, but there's other intersections, obviously, as well to speak to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think that we also need to think about the other intersections, like you say. So one of the biggest ones is social class. You know, even saying something like avoid all men, in an ideal world, yes, that's correct. But, you know, we also live in a world where as a woman, and, you know, I live on my own by choice, but it is very expensive. And I understand it's a privilege to do that. So when you're giving feminist advice in quotation marks, understand that, especially if we're in the West, we have access to a lot of resources that other women in the West just don't have. and even the ability to choose like whether or not to deal with men is quite a Western privilege as well. So I think in practical terms, it's also about understanding your audience and also recognizing that feminism, it isn't as advanced everywhere in the world. I think a lot of the times in feminist discourse, it's very much centered around Western ideals and what feels good for Western women. Without much regard for women in the global majority, so women outside of the Western sphere. And they make up majority of the world. And unfortunately, it's in those parts of the world that, where we see patriarchy at its most potent.
Yeah, that is such a good point. I do think a lot of that gets forgotten because we have luxuries and privileges here available to us. And it's like, why would you even deal with men?
Yeah.
Or even like when people talk about things that happened like 50 years ago, like, oh, my grandma and my grandpa were married for X amount of years and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, you have to consider that she was kind of forced to do that.
Right.
Or like before you say like my grandma stayed with like an abusive man or something like that. And like that was wrong and she endangered her kids or whatever. It's like, well, she was forced. Like she wouldn't have had she wouldn't have been able to make her own way. And that was part of the calculation.
Agreed.
Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute blast. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, I agree.
Chatting and meeting with you all.
This has been great.
Thanks so much, ladies.
All right, now that we're back, let's dig into our mailbag. As always, we keep our mailbag senders anonymous, so we're not going to say their name. But they say, hi, I'm classified as lower functioning, high masking autistic woman. I loved hearing you discuss about autism with the public offender, hearing about his autistic son. Studies show women are less likely to be diagnosed with autism. So they basically believe this is because women have a better ability to communicate than their male peers. I believe it's because of how us women are socialized. I've been doing chores, cooking since a toddler, basically helping my relatives in the kitchen. I have sensory issues. Many tasks feel overbearing, achy, but they must get done. It's a part of life. I feel capable men who use neurodivergence as excuse to not do the minimum is embarrassing. Red flag, as you say. What are your thoughts on this study regarding autistic women being looked over? I also have heard many autistic women hear, you're too pretty to be autistic, or you can't be autistic, you're a woman, it's a male disorder. You're an autistic mother, how does this work? I had my own recent experience where I was being re-diagnosed, it was mandatory. I've been diagnosed very little. When I came in, the person helping me didn't believe I was autistic, only wanted a diagnosis for trends, whatever this means. At the end, they had sympathy in their eyes, telling my relative, by my appearance, you'd never know my struggles. I'm thankful for the podcast and you ladies. You speak about what others dare not. Save me from romantic lifestyle servitude. I found you through Burp and Bougie, and I'm grateful.
Shout out to
As
Burp.
always, yes, huge shout out to
for
Burp.
real.
We love her.
I wonder how much of this is the fact that when they studied medicines and cures and all of that stuff back in the day, they largely excluded women.
Yes.
So I just wonder, is this another one of those things where it's like we don't really need to test women because we don't really care. We're going to base everything on men.
They're just the same as men.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, they're the same but different. And they don't account for like our hormonal differences. Like,
or our socialization.
Or our socialization and things like that. And I kind of know where she's coming from on that study. It's just because the reason why like women are less diagnosed than men is because a lot of the traits that we're socialized to have get kind of pushed as this thing, like when we're more chatty, it's like, oh, that's just a girly thing. Like girls are just more like that. Or even when we're shy and we're like kind of, reclused and pushed to the corner and whatnot, and we just kind of like hide behind our mom's leg or something when we're little, like that's just seen as like, oh, she's just timid, like that's a girly thing, like that's just seen as like an innately female trait, and it's not a sign of autism. Whereas like for boys, it's a lot more obvious when they're autistic because their traits are a lot more louder. Like they can't sit still, or maybe they play specifically with one toy constantly. And I think there's just a lot more pressure on little boys to conform to societal norms a lot earlier than it is for girls. So I think as girls, we've learned to mask our entire lives. If you're an autistic girl, you start masking probably when you're just a toddler. Because you're guided by these societal norms of like playing with dolls a little earlier, or like you're told like watching these Disney movies, like this is how girls are supposed to act. So then you emulate those traits. So I think as a girl, it's just a lot harder because all of these things and also like we're studied a lot later. Even now for women, for our medical studies and things like that, for autoimmune disorders, we weren't included in those trials until I want to say like just this past decade. So it makes total sense why women are diagnosed a lot later in life than boys are.
I started talking to my doctor about, I thought I had ADHD when I was about 12. And I started bringing that up to her regularly at every single checkup, visit, whatever. I'd be like, I can't concentrate in class. It sounds like, there's a point in the day where things just switch and like I can't process the words that people are saying. Like it's hard for me. It's hard for me to study. Like I just don't have the concentration levels that I feel like is easy for kids my age to have. And she didn't diagnose me officially until I was 18 years old. 18.
Me too.
And I literally brought it up every single time. And she told me things like, oh, no, you're not ADHD. I know what ADHD kids look like. If you were ADHD, you'd be bouncing off the walls in here. And I was like, with my mom, like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, I was raised by like Slavic parents. I'm never going to be bouncing off the fucking walls anywhere, like, no matter how much I want to.
Same.
So, like, no, that's not it. I promise you, I have trouble concentrating. And yeah, it just took her a really long time. And it was basically like a here you go. Like,
yeah, it's a shut up.
There wasn't, yeah, exactly. It's just like, here's your prescription. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, I got my ADHD diagnosis when I was 25, actually.
That's wild. Yeah. See, and I'm lucky because mine, like I got mine quote unquote early.
And then when I finally got prescribed Adderall and I took it for the first time, I cried. I was like, this is how normal people function in their brain. It's quiet up here. Like in here without Adderall, it's loud. It feels like a bunch of bees are buzzing around in there, and one of them's playing like a pop song from 2005 constantly, or like an ad from the radio from when I was 12. Like the O'Reilly one, like that's buzzing around in there.
Yeah, still there for sure.
God, don't make me start singing that.
Cars for kids.
So, exactly. And so when I took Adderall, it's quiet. The bees are sitting still and they're in their little hives making honey, and I don't have to worry about it. And I can just hone in on what I need to do. And the same thing happened to me with my psychiatrist when she was assessing me, and she was like, I don't actually think you have ADHD, because like if you did, you'd be bouncing off the walls, as you said. And I'm like, no, I'm not, because like I had an Asian parent and like I got beat.
It wasn't an option.
I couldn't sit still.
It was never an option for me.
Yeah. Wow. I remember a woman describing it as watching 4 different TVs with the volume on. I mean, 4 different stations on TV, like 4 different TVs with 4 different things on all at once. I thought that was I was like, oh, she gave me the clearest picture. And I was like, now it makes sense, But I just think about the patriarchy. Anything that is created to center men will always center men. So they're going to always spend their time, money, energy, resources on men more so than women. And when they do women, it's going to be in a way to exploit us or to benefit themselves somehow. So that's why I think that, it's just so sad. It's just so sad,
I've never seen a clearer picture of patriarchy than learning that, women weren't even studied in medicine until a lot later.
Exactly.
Like if that doesn't say it right there in black and white terms, then I don't know what would convince anyone that the patriarchy absolutely exists.
I think we are not human.
The word patriarchy is like a very arbitrary term, and they don't see it because like they don't experience it. And then it's like, how do you explain our different realities to somebody who will never, ever, ever go through something like misogyny and gender-based violence and discrimination and things like that?
And men who think that women are over-exaggerating when they are giving birth.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or you have menstrual pains or whatever, and they just swear up and down. You're just trying to get some attention. Like they literally they just don't get it.
They don't get it, yeah.
And they don't want to.
No.
Yeah. And to the questioner's point, you know, when it's like these diagnoses are still used against women and like for men, because basically when Elon Musk came out and did his quote unquote Roman salute, which was really just right, like not that at all.
Exactly.
Everyone was like, yeah, well, he's autistic. He does understand like social norms, like
Right.
whatever. But when a woman is autistic, like she's not given that same pass. You know, in fact, it's like, oh no, you're too pretty to be autistic. Like you can't possibly be, you know, whatever. And it's like, there are lots of really pretty women are autistic, I promise you. Like
What the hell does that even mean? Like, if you're too pretty
what is that
I
supposed
don't
to
know
mean?
how they think autistic people have a look. Like it's not.
Exactly.
Is that
It's
like it's a
ableist,
physical?
yeah,
It's very
to begin with.
because autism happens inside of here. Like, it's not here. It's in here.
It's not like if a person has Down syndrome or something. You know, like you can just kind of look at it and can diagnose it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like
And neurodivergence is itself very diverse, right? So like not every autistic person is going to be a genius or a savant or something like that, but some are. And it's all, you know, usually with like different things. Everybody has like
spectrum.
niche. It's a very much a spectrum. And it's a line spectrum, and it's also like a circle spectrum. Like I think there's so much, you know, some people have ADHD and autism at once, and then that creates a confusing reality.
All the time.
For women, it's just really hard because you are forced to mask. You really are. Like people, like I'm pretty sure, I don't know, it's just hard for like parents to cope as is, but especially when it comes to like little girls, there seems to be a lot more denial around it, or like a lot less, it's a lot less visible because girls are very much taught to mask regardless. And so it doesn't matter if you're autistic or not, your only option is to mask. Like the only way that you're going to know you're autistic as a woman growing up is you don't get along with other women. Like other girls look at you and they don't want to be friends with you. Like usually if you actually have like ADHD or autism as a woman, that's the only way you're going to know. Because you're going to feel like you're fitting in everywhere, but women usually will not like you. And that's how I've always known.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the like, I'm not friends with other girls, women, is just because they're autistic and they're like not, you know, and they'll figure it out eventually because they have pattern recognition. But a lot of that, like the origin point of that is like, women don't like me and I don't know why. Like, that's just what it's always been.
So some of them are autistic pick-me's, maybe?
It's not that you're a pick-me, it's that you're rejected by other women. So like for...
Women are kind of able to suss that out in you before even you're able to do it yourself.
Okay, when you said that, you made me think of like... I'm not like the other girls.
Exactly. No, it is. It presents the same way.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It presents the same way. And it's not even necessarily that they'll be friends with guys instead, but they'll just be like, I can't form female friendships. And it's just interesting that that's like usually the only people that can tell is like other women.
I never thought about that before.
Another way to tell is like if your friends are a little autistic, and that's like,
yes,
you
if
can
all
spot
your
that
friends
in
are
them,
neurodivergent,
because they naturally gravitate towards each other. Like we naturally find each other in the wild, and we're just like, you're not like other people, are you? And it's like, but that's an endearing trait to us, and so we tend to trust that in other people. Whereas like, you know, if you were less autistic or if you were normal, like it's kind of like you're held at a distance, or like we hold them at a distance. Whereas if you're autistic, and if you're autistic, even if you don't realize that you're autistic, but if you find the weirdness in others endearing and trustworthy, like maybe that's a sign.
I don't think I have a whole lot of experience with like autistic people, but I think sometimes I may be able to pick up on something, like something is different about them, but I don't know what it is. I don't immediately think autism. But then later on, if they say this person is autistic, I'm like, okay, well maybe that's what I was picking up on. But outside of that, I don't even know if I guess I don't pay people enough attention or something.
And also a lot of neurodivergent people are very good at masking because it's like the only way for us to really get through life. Like we just don't really have another option. Like there's so much I've done in my life that I, you know, kind of again, like the person mentioned in their mailbag, that like there's a lot of things, like I still struggle with doing the dishes because of the sensory thing, you know? And
Hey,
I
me
just,
too.
I've never had the option to be like, oh, that means I just don't get to do the dishes.
I have to put on my gloves, the dish gloves, the latex ones, the yellow ones or whatever.
Yeah, I would rather die than touch a like dish that has had like standing water in it for.
Really?
Oh my God.
Oh, you mean like the slime layer?
Texture nightmare. Sensory
So
nightmare.
you're not talking about soap and water. You're talking about
no,
something else?
The food
dirty,
left on the plate.
Yeah, the
if it wasn't rinsed
stuff
beforehand and you just like left it there. And it grew little friends on the plate.
Okay, got you.
With it.
Oh my God.
Not even that,
smells.
just even a dirty plate, smells.
I
stuff
just
like
use
that.
gloves no matter what, just to protect my nails. Like,
see, good. Yeah.
That's just, I'm like, if I don't, my hands get soggy and they just get that weird, dried out, weird
raisin
feeling.
Fingers?
Yeah, raisin fingers. And then my nails get weakened. And so I just protect my nails. Like, I'm like not wearing gloves. Every now and then I might not do it, but it's not an option for the most part. Like, I'm just,
yeah.
You know, I don't know. But I get what you're saying. I'd never thought about any of this before.
Luckily, I worked out a deal where it's like I just do laundry. Like I will do laundry all day long. As long as I never touch a dish in my life, I will do your laundry. I don't care. And that's worked for me.
I was gonna say I don't have a deal like that. I just wait. I'm like,
just
look,
leave it unspoken.
At some point, my
or just
husband's
buy
gonna
a
get
bunch of paper plates or whatever.
Yes, actually, I do have some. I have paper. Yeah, I have Dixie plates and Dixie bowls just in case. Because it's like if I get left to my own devices, I won't do dishes. Like I'd rather order takeout, and I won't even cook either. Like I hate cooking. I don't like cooking.
I got Dixie stuff just because I don't feel like washing dishes all the time. But I always end up washing coffee mugs, silverware, no matter what.
Yeah,
like my coffee pot or my espresso machine.
Yeah, that stuff.
I'm always washing something.
Yes,
there's no way I can get away from it. But the plates, I get some Dixie plates, sometimes some Dixie bowls, and then I could just
Cups
toss them.
Too.
Yeah.
And
I
don't even want to wash my mugs sometimes. Like I feel dirty saying that, but like I have a system, so like I don't live in filth.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
No, but seriously, like the struggle is real, and not a lot of people can relate to it, and a lot of people just dismiss it. But it's like, I don't know. It's hard to always be masking and. Anyways, I can relate. I haven't received like an autism diagnosis, but I'm sure I would if I really talked to somebody about it. It was hard enough. Yeah. It was hard enough to get the ADHD diagnosis, and I've just kind of given up on it since. But maybe one day I'll look back into it because I'm not sure. Like once you have your diagnosis, like what changes? Like nothing. It's not like I don't.
Well, for me, when I got my ADHD diagnosis, I got a lot of closure. A lot of things like clicked for me.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
I appreciated having and if I had an autism diagnosis, that would do the same thing for me too. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, it's the end of the world for me. I have autism. No, it'd just be like, oh, well, that would make sense in my childhood when this and this happened.
Exactly.
Like it would really kind of be a point of clarification, and it's something I would appreciate. If it's something our healthcare system supported, I would definitely try to shoot for the moon on that. But because I live in the United States of insurance, so like the United States of health insurance companies where they put profit over people, like that's just not a thing for us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully that was a helpful answer. Hopefully that we were able to provide a little bit of solidarity there. Thank you so much for writing in. And let's read our poll results and then we'll give our recommendation. And the question was, how does pretty privilege make you think about your self-worth and value? So we had the 4 options were having pretty privilege has made me realize how much of my value is tied to my appearance. Then we have pretty privilege has benefited me, but I worry about losing it over time. Number 3 was not having pretty privilege has made me feel overlooked or undervalued in certain situations. And not having pretty privilege has pushed me to cultivate confidence and worth beyond my appearance. So the most popular answer was not having pretty privilege has made me feel overlooked or undervalued in certain situations. That was the most popular answer by far on the Patreon poll. And the most popular answer on the Spotify poll was I have to excel in other ways. So not having pretty privilege has pushed me to cultivate confidence and worth beyond my appearance.
That's what I would have picked.
Yeah, interesting. I would definitely say I'm of the second answer. Pretty privilege has benefited me, but I worry about losing it over time. And the first one, has made me realize how much of my value is tied to my appearance. Because I used to not have it. And so I know what it's like not to have it. And I know what it's like to have it. And boy.
It's a massive shift in reality for me. Because I didn't get it either until like my 20s. Like I had my ugly duckling years. And during those years where it was more formative, I kind of grew to have like more of a spine and say what's on my mind more, go to school, like prioritize my education, prioritize my ability to find like a career that would propel me forward financially. And things like that. And also maybe have a sense of humor. Because I feel like some people who are really genuinely very beautiful, they had less of a need to develop a sense of humor. Or maybe they had less traumatic things happen to them.
Yeah.
So they didn't really get that part of the brain formed. I don't know how to put it.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's like whatever you're used to having, in some cases, it's almost like if they say if you lose one sense, the other senses become stronger.
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of look at that. In some ways, I think if you feel like you have had to cultivate other important parts of yourself, I think that is the flex. I feel like that's the better.
Exactly.
That's the better. Because, I mean, looks fade, right?
They do.
And so it's like once they do, what else do you have? So I remember my mom used to always say, it's okay to be pretty, but you should be pretty and smart. Like, don't just be one or the other. And like, I worked hard to kind of like make sure I could take care of myself and that I didn't depend on nobody and whatever else. So people can say what they want to say, but I'm still going to always, look out for me. And as I get older and, not as attractive, I think I'll probably be a little bit more at peace. You know who gives me so much hope when I think about them is Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
I love her.
Like she stopped wearing makeup and she's like, she's been like, she's still beautiful, by the way, to me. But she's been like this it woman her whole life. And she would do the makeup and she had the body and the boobs and whatever else. And I can tell she's fucking tired. She's tired she's probably been tired for a long time. And she just want to exist, and not be seen as like a sex object or whatever. You know what I mean? So, and I just love that for her. I can't even express the words. Like I know exactly, at least I feel like I know exactly like where she's at. She just wants to live and be normal and not have people objectify her, basically, And
they still do.
She sound like of course they will, but I'm sure it slowed down a bit. But I think she seems like she's more at peace. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the vibe I get from her.
Yeah.
Yes, and you can see it on her face too. Like her smile, I feel like is a little bit more deeper and less.
I agree.
I don't want to say hollow.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before it's like the cameras are watching. Even if I'm in a shitty mood, I have to pretend like I'm having a good time. But now when she smiles, it's like it feels wholesome. It's
you
like
love to see it.
Yeah, I look forward to like that. You know what I mean? Like when I get like I don't know. People tell me all the time when you get old, I'm like, I'm already old. Which I know I'm not.
Yeah, old. I know. That's my favorite. It's my
but
favorite thing.
I love saying that because people think
say,
I'm my age.
Wait till you get into your 30s.
Yeah. Like, isn't that funny? Somebody told me wait until I get to my 40s the other day. And then I had somebody else told me my 30s a couple weeks ago. I'm like, and I love getting on there and saying, sir, I'm 40 years old. Or ma'am, I'm 40. I'll be 41. You know what I mean? Like I just get a kick out of it. But it's better to be the woman that no matter what you look like, you are smart, you got your shit together, you're witty, you can take up for yourself, you defend yourself. That is so much better. Because once you realize that if your looks is tied to people's perception of you, once that fades, once you realize that men are just objectifying your looks anyways, you know what I mean? Like, it's not worth it anyways.
To quote FDS, dick is abundant and low in value.
Low value.
Oh, God. Speaking of
Amen.
which, no.
Yes, and
Preaching
that
the
is
gospel.
Yeah, and I feel like our recommendation this week should be the FDS podcast. If you don't know the FDS lore, you got to catch up. Like they have a website now.
Good for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can find some of the archived Reddit posts. Like it still is up on Reddit as a subreddit, and like the handbook is still up, so make sure you go read it. There's everything they said still stands. So it's been great having Savannah on the show. We're so stoked to have been able to bring you this interview. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and we will see y'all next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.